You are listening to the Parkflyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Parkflyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Parkflyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas, in Arizona.
That's right. And welcome to Arizona.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. This is fantastic.
Yep. We mentioned last time that on our last podcast with Philip that you were in town and we were flying together. And so we thought we'd take the opportunity to kind of recap what we've done so far and what we've got planned to do. So,
well, the good news is you guys aren't in jail.
That is good news. We're not in jail.
Not
yet, anyway. We still have a couple more days left.
Yeah, I don't remember ever being threatened to be put in jail.
Yeah.
So that's good, too. I don't remember it,
well,
so
the shenanigans
that may be
you guys
part of
get
it.
up and into.
What's that?
It's nice to know that, nobody's lost a finger so far. Nobody has stitches.
Oh, no, we had the mangler out, too.
And nobody's in jail.
Yep, we did have the mangler out, but unfortunately it never really got cranked up. So
all right.
It was very threatening sitting on the bench, but it never was able to.
We tried to maybe chop Mike up a little bit. We were working on a new plane that I have.
Yeah, actually, Mike showed up with his little golf bag full of goodies, and he basically was able to, unload a new airplane.
Yeah,
and tell everybody what you brought.
I brought myself a FunRacer.
And where did you get it?
I got it from weekendwarehouse.com, I think it is.
Right.
And this is something where, Jay, again, was the instigator for this.
RC broker.
What?
But at this point, it was one of those things where I kind of wanted it. So
right.
I can't put it all on him, even though I'm gonna. Like that's what I will.
I resent being called an instigator.
Uh-huh.
I'm an enabler.
Okay, all right.
There's a difference.
There is a difference.
There's a big
An
difference.
instigator does it
I'm
once
a guy
in a
who
while,
helps
and an enabler does it all
facilitate
the
your
time.
desires and dreams,
Yeah.
and I connect those things together.
There you go.
That's true. That's true.
Very well.
You wanted
actually.
something, and you mentioned it to me, and I made it happen.
So I was at the Electric Fest, and
Right. This is all the way back from the February of the Electric Festival.
yeah,
Right.
and that FunRacer was one of the giveaways.
So the Multiplex guys showed up to the RC Electric Festival, and they brought out their new FunRacer, and Mike just fell in love with this thing.
I did, and it was one of the giveaways, and
That's
I was
right.
like, I'm gonna win it, I'm gonna win it, I'm gonna win it, and I didn't win it.
Yeah, I know.
That was very disappointing.
Well, it was one of the pilot raffles, and Mike didn't get it, but that did not deter him
From departing, losing some money to do it.
But he was not determined, or he was determined. He was determined to depart or to part with his cash.
That's it. That's what I did. I parted with my cash.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's done easily.
No, I know. It's all wadded up in his hand, tighter than a
It
Fort
is.
Knox.
It
but,
is.
So it's, what's it called again? RC?
The Weekend Warehouse.
Weekend Warehouse.
I think.
Okay, Weekend Warehouse. And they actually had it on special.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
Exactly. And who found that special?
Jay.
Whoa.
Jay found it.
Evidently the enabler.
Yes.
The enabler.
Is that your new name? You're the enabler.
Yeah, I think you should come on a little differently.
The RC enabler.
It's like
That's
your
what I
DC
am.
Comics name.
No.
Enabler.
What do you need, kids?
And there you get arrested. So anyway,
Running around in a cape.
So so I bought the white only version.
right? Okay,
And,
so this is the naked version.
Yep. And so Jay knows that a lot of the planes I have are foamies, and a lot of them are very white. And sometimes I just fly
they're a
them
little
that way. I think the Phoenix 2000, I maybe put some tape on the corners, on the edges, maybe.
Okay, now we've had this conversation before for
Yeah.
the last several years since Mike joined the group way back when.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been one of those things that Jay always mentions. The fact, we're going to go fly Mike's airplanes, and they're going to be hard to see because they're just
White.
right out of the mold.
Yeah.
There's nothing on them.
They may have a sticker on them.
Hey, did you see, guys? I decorated my airplane. You did? Yeah, I put this black dot on the wingtip.
Uh-huh. It serves as a CG and some color.
It's a CG little
So
sticker.
it's on the bottom.
Yeah,
White
it's a sticker.
Invasion stripe
Invasion
CG
sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the size of a dime, folks. So anyway, so when I was up in Alaska many years ago, that was one of the things that Jay and I went out and fly. I'm like, whoa, what is wrong with this airplane? It's got, how do you even see this thing? And
I can see it.
you can't see it.
I could see it.
You can see it far enough for it to disappear, and then you can't see it and crash it. So
it's all flying by braille.
yeah, it's a one-time event for you. You just like, throw it out there, and okay, it was good. It was fun while it lasted, kind of thing. So anyway, Jay and I, I've got some painting. I think we mentioned that in podcasts many episodes ago, but I've got a little bit of painting skill. I've done it for a while, and did it with scale models, and won ribbons and stuff for it. So anyway, Jay solicited me in his floor in his living room and said, "Hey, we got to do something for Mike's glider." So we took some tape, and basically I remember it. I was sitting in there working on something, and he brings this box of tape. There's probably 20 rolls of
20
colors,
rolls of tape, yeah,
just different colors. Then he brings this white Phoenix 2000 2-meter glider in there. And goes,
How did I get?
Did
you just ask for it or something?
No, we wrecked.
No, we
oh,
wrecked
that's
it.
right.
No, we didn't wreck his. We wrecked.
Yeah, you wrecked mine.
We wrecked
Oh, yeah,
somebody's.
we did wreck
Anyway,
yours,
you
yeah.
ended up getting the new glider out of it because either you loaned it to us and we wrecked
That's
it, or
what
we
happened.
did something.
I loaned it to you.
And
That's
So
what it
we-
was.
we had
we
that bad-
wrecked yours in the parking lot because of the battery shift.
Right.
So it
then
crushed
and then
the
we were
fuselage.
using somebody's and it had the orange receiver in it, and it crashed.
That was Mike's.
And that was Mike's.
And we were
And
at the
then,
field.
We got him a new one.
Right, so-
and then
Right. So what happened was that we crashed yours in the Walmart parking lot, and it went nose in first and destroyed the actual
Fuselage.
It
Fuselage.
accordioned it.
which is really hard to do.
You're right, but the wings were perfect.
Right.
Then we went out to the field and flew Mike's because he loaned it to us so that we could have something to fly. And we went
dirt
out
nap.
and flew his, and we got the orange receiver. Something happened to it, and it went into the forest and came ripping down through there and hit a tree,
Right.
ripped the wings clean off of it, but the fuselage was totally intact. So now we kind of bastardized it. We took your fuselage, his wings, which were all white, and your fuselage was all white, and we put them all together.
No. We made that plane mine, and then
we bought him a new one.
a new
Right.
plane, which was totally white.
Correct.
So since we were going to give it to him, we decided we
That
would
is
color
correct.
because we asked him, "Hey, do you want us to do whatever?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fine. Just put a sticker on
Right.
it." And we're like, yeah, "Okay."
That is correct. But that's how we got.
That's
That's
what
how we
happened.
wound up with two gliders because he
Yes.
actually wound up getting a new one because
Yeah.
we felt bad that we crashed
Yeah.
it. So
Right.
So and they were on sale, I think, too. So it only cost us I think we split it for.
Well, you're not supposed to tell him.
Oh,
that.
sorry.
It was really
They
expensive.
gave it to us.
Yes, in that case, it cost us.
Hey,
a
kid,
half
you
a
want
life
this?
savings.
We're going to throw it away. Sure, my friend will love it.
So that's right. Yeah, I was sitting in this thing. I was sitting in the living room floor, and Jay brought me a box of tape, many colors, and he goes, "Here, do something that makes this fabulous." So we kind of
You did too.
Yeah, I put
It
my,
was fabulous.
my hat on and started laying tape on the leading edges and got it to look somewhat.
I think I could fly that thing so far away that it was, outside the transmitter range.
Yeah, just to see it. You
Yeah,
can
I mean, you can
see
still
it.
see it. Yeah,
Right.
it's outside the transmitter range.
So anyway, we always bust Mike's chops for having these monocolor. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Monochrome. Yeah,
Mono-
monochrome type airplanes that have no color. You can barely see them. Their profile disappears at about 100 yards. You can't see. And so anyway, he took our advice one time when he got the ME
Oh, the 120 is 163.
163.
That was a fun plane.
He's like, "Oh, I'm going to paint this one." We're like, "Fantastic." I'm thinking, okay, what's he going to do? How's he going to make this thing look really good? And what did he do? Took a rattle can or two rattle cans of pure red. The whole airplane. Top,
Made it all
bottom,
red.
It was
wings,
beautiful.
everything. Solid red. Looked like a
It looked like an
beach ball.
apple flying in the sky.
It did. It looked like a big apple cruising along.
I
So
loved
anyway, I was kind of
it.
like,
It had
oh,
stickers.
yeah.
It had the
black stickers.
black cross stickers on it and stuff.
The German Luftwaffe symbols.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't see it because the red kind of overwhelmed the black. But
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a great airplane, and we applauded your effort.
Mhm.
But this time, now that he's kind of joined in the artistic world, he brings me an airplane that has nothing on it. It's all
This FunRacer.
Yep.
And so we're talking
right.
about what are we going to do?
right. We sat down, and I said, "Hey, what do you want?" Which is kind of odd for someone that goes, "Well, maybe a dot. Just put a smiley face on the nose, one of those stickers." And I was like, "No, I'm just kidding."
Yeah, so we looked at a bunch of different things, and he
Right.
suggested some colors, and I was like, "Oh, those are good. I I like that. And so so Mike actually painted it.
Yeah, so one of the things that Mike wanted to see, and we've been talking about this, is that he's like, well, I kind of want to, be a part of this and see how it works. And you've never airbrushed before, right?
Never.
Okay, so he's never airbrushed before, and so I told him, I was like, well, we can get in there and kind of airbrush, and I'll kind of show you how to do some of that stuff. So we did. We looked at a bunch of photos of the FunRacers. Actually, we looked at a bunch of photos of Reno air racers
And gliders.
We looked at dynamic soaring gliders because they're nowadays up into the 400-500 mile an hour range. And when you're flying something that's doing 500 miles an hour, that's getting away from you that quick, you got to have some really high visibility.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about visibility and how you wanted some high contrast. And then I basically told him, I took him in my little shop and I said, okay, here are the colors I have. I have a fluorescent orange, I have a fluorescent purple, and I thought I had a fluorescent highlighter yellow. Come to find out, I know I have that, but it's somewhere. I don't know where it is.
No,
but
I think you did, but I didn't like it.
Well, actually, I think we bought an extra copy.
Oh,
anyway, that was the problem. We went and bought it because I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So, and I pulled a couple other colors. We had a transparent purple and some pinks and hot stuff, and plus I had some other things. And so I told him, I said, you just kind of have to kind of think these colors through and kind of mash them together, get something that you can visualize. And so Mike looked at some actual Reno airplanes, the ones that out there race, and had kind of a couple ideas and said, well, I like the tail one color and the nose one color. And so he kind of gave me this idea. This is what I have, and so we masked off the nose. You wanted the orange, right?
Yep.
So the fluorescent orange was really against the white was really contrasting, and you pretty much knew you wanted the purple on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
So you wanted purple on the bottom, fluorescent purple, fluorescent orange on the top. And so I was like, all right, well, we have to kind of come up with an idea. And so, yeah, basically we painted, what I did is I went and kind of looked at the FunRacer model from Multiplex to see what they did, and they actually have a sticker kit that goes with it. So I kind of was thinking about the stickers, and anyway, we wound up painting it.
Orange, purple, and green.
Yeah, so we went to the store to get some yellow paint because I couldn't find mine, the yellow fluorescent highlighter color. And then I picked it up, and he goes, oh, I was thinking it was going to be more yellowish, it looks almost green to him. And I was like, oh, well, this is green here. And so we picked up the green and yellow, and he says, well, I like the green better. So we're going to post a picture of it on our website and on our Facebook page, so you'll be able to see it. If you haven't been on the Facebook page, then run over there to the Parkflyer Podcast Listeners group, and Mike's airplane will be on there. We'll make sure we post it. So anyway, what'd you think of the process? That kind of what was your take on this whole process of getting started painting?
Well, from a first timer's viewpoint, there's a lot of choices to make. Like
Okay.
if I was to go out into the store, maybe Hobbytown or wherever, and get the stuff, there's a lot of choices to make.
There's a lot.
And so if you know someone who knows how to paint, luckily I do, these kind of decisions are a lot easier.
Sure.
How convenient.
But I would feel pretty overwhelmed doing this without having that kind of connection first.
Right.
And so I'm just going to say, you could go do it yourself, but I think you're going to spend a lot more money because you'll get the wrong stuff.
Wrong stuff, you mean, as far as the material itself, or just the wrong stuff?
Well, there were things like how thick the paint is, and what kind of a paintbrush do you use, and is this brand good or that brand good? And there's a bunch of different quality issues that you have to, you really won't know. And if I did it because I'm cheap, I would have bought the cheapest stuff I could find, not realizing that that's going to impact a big thing, which we learned in this particular thing, was that if you use cheap gear, it takes longer to do it. It's not necessarily bad, or the quality of it wouldn't have necessarily been bad, but it took us a lot longer to do some parts of it because of different problems that we ran into. And maybe we'll go through them tonight a little bit, but I don't know how much detail people want to know about that stuff, but for me, it was just like, oh my Lord, this is so overwhelming in terms of, really, does it take this long? Because like every time you guys talk about it, it seems like zip, 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 you're done. And this is really taking a long time. Now, I would also admit that, it's been a long day, and we started painting after that long day.
Yeah, that's true.
I might not have been, completely focused during that time frame. But at the same time, it was interesting, and I learned a bunch of stuff, and I got to paint part of the plane, which was neat.
Oh, you did?
And, of course, Mike fixed my mistakes after I painted it. but
I did not. I just refreshened it up.
And but other than that, it was kind of a neat process. And there's taping you have to do, and then there's design choices. And like after we finished painting it, Mike and I are both sitting back looking at it, enjoying it, because it really looks nice. I mean, everybody we showed it to was like, "Wow, that's pretty nice." But I won't say what the things that we would change were, because I want people to make up their own minds.
Sure.
But we looked at it and we're like, yeah, now that we spent 6 hours or whatever, because it took us a long time for a couple of things to do, might have done this differently. And there's another piece over here that we would have probably done differently.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, but that goes with everything, even from model building to.
Sure.
I almost want to crash this one just so we can paint it again.
Because now that I actually got it all painted, I was like, oh, we could have done this, and this with it, and that would have looked pretty cool.
And we both agreed, those are really good changes.
Right. I mean, one of the things I think Arizona Mike had mentioned to me, or he texted me, he had basically said, hey, well, we're putting this thing all together, and we're going to do this with it. And then all of a sudden he was like, hey, this thing doesn't have landing gear.
Uh-huh.
You got to land it in the grass.
Right.
It has to land, belly land.
Right.
So painting the absolute bottom of the plane that's going to touch the ground may not be the best thing, because it may just rip the paint right off.
It's going to get
right,
scraped right off.
Exactly.
Yep. So anyway, all in all, I still a little maybe standoffish about the idea, because you got to have a compressor. Mm-hmm. You got to have there's a bunch of tools you got to buy to do this stuff.
This is true.
And so this is one of those things. What I really got out of this is that this is a labor of love for Mike. Like, I watched him do this stuff. He's spending time doing this, and I could tell, like, while he was painting some of the pieces, he was actually thinking about the next things, like what's he going to do next, or he had to deal with some coverage issues because we had some problem with the paint, and he had to thin it out a little bit or whatever. I mean, you can talk to that maybe, but
so I was telling Mike, that the biggest part of this is that there's huge differences, and he was talking about being cheap or whatever, but I've always been an advocate for the right tool for the right job, and Jay has heard that for 35 years, and part of the reason I have all these tools is because my father put that in my head way back when I was young. If you take a crescent wrench and try to take something off, you're going to bust your knuckles up. You're going to wind up in the hospital. It's always going to cost you more than if you would have just bought the tool, and then now you have the tool for the rest of the time, right? So I have a very expensive Pache double VL something, it's well over $100 airbrush. But I also have a drawer full of $14, Harbor Freight airbrushes. Because if I need something really quick, I just jump in there to Harbor Freight, spray it, and if the brush breaks or whatever, I throw it away. But if I'm doing really detailed, high, quality work, I have a Pache. And actually, Spencer has, he does even thinner, more detailed work, and he has a Wada, linear one. And his is a siphon fed, or mine's a siphon fed, his is a gravity fed. So anyway, when you buy the tools, the compressor and, the rigmarole that goes with it, all that stuff is a one-time purchase. Now, like every man, I have a compressor already in my garage. I just had to buy the, water filter and the other stuff that kind of.
He just said I'm not a man.
I didn't say that. He's been called. Long story. He's been called a woman all day, so don't worry about it. But anyway, I already have some of this stuff, and so it's easy to attach other things to it. And one of the most difficult part for as Mike put it, someone that's new that's getting into the hobby, is that there are different types of airbrushes, and unless you understood what they were used for, like Mike said, he would have gone to the testers, got the one just basically siphon-fed single stage and said, okay, this is good enough for me. Well, that's just literally one step up from a rattle can. From a detail standpoint, you're not going to get the effect that you want, or,
you don't have the control you need. You don't have
it'll just
all
spray
kinds of
paint
different
on there.
things.
Right. And so the hardest part, the interesting thing to me when we were doing this is that, Mike had this idea. This is kind of what I want. And I was, trying to get all the details I can out of him. And then I basically have some painter's tape. It's actually a special tape for modeling.
It's like a vinyl tape.
It is a vinyl tape. What's that?
Fisking tape?
The Frisket film? I do have that too, but no, this is the actual tape, and it's more like a vinyl tape. It makes curves. Like you can actually make a curve.
Like the frog. Okay, the frog.
No,
no, it's different.
No, that's actually masking tape that's cut with a pattern. This tape is actually physically a vinyl.
It's a lot like electrical tape.
Very much, it has the same consistency of electrical tape.
Okay.
But it's a little thinner, and so what you can do is you can lay it down, and then if you give it a little pull, you can actually make a perfect linear corner. A round corner, not a square corner.
Yeah.
And so if you needed to make a wave, or you need to make something that comes around and then makes an S or whatever, this tape will do it. And you just have to put a little stretch on it and push on your thumb, and that's how I do the camo stuff. Like if you've seen my L39. A lot of that camo lines were done with this tape.
So Mike, what's interesting about what you're saying with regard to the tape was he did a really great job of making things symmetrical. That was a big deal for me. I really wanted this stuff to be symmetrical. I just like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember as a kid, I used to copy comics out of the newspaper and make them bigger.
Right.
They'd be a 2-inch by 2-inch square, and I'd put them on a 8.5 by 11, and just do square transfers. Basically, you draw grid lines or use grid paper, and then you draw a grid on that cartoon, and then you just draw it out and color it in. And it's really cool how you can duplicate stuff. Well, to me, that's kind of basically what you were doing, but you had the design wasn't from some other thing; it was in your head,
right?
And so that was kind of cool to watch that process of coming from what I told you to some produced product,
right?
Which was cool.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of cool to hear that. But yeah, and part of the design, when you talk about the design being in my head, I had the elements of what you wanted, and then like I said, we had looked at so many different Reno racers that I wanted it to kind of look like a Reno racer. That's in my head. That's what I had visioned. This hot rod of a pylon racer looking thing, and it's all really, really kind of decked out. So we knew that the nose was going to be orange, and so I laid this tape out because I told him, I said, well, do you want it to come to a point? Do you want it to be round? The one that they sell has kind of like a square shape on it, or whatever. And so they have the sticker kit that goes with it, and so their paint matches the sticker kit. And what Mike wanted didn't really match the sticker kit to that point. And so I taped it all off, and I said, look, the airplane's white, the tape is white, they kind of match. You can see where it goes. Is this what you want? And he's like, yeah, that looks kind of cool. I like the way it kind of comes down underneath the stacks or above the stacks, and then it kind of comes down and joins the wing. And then he said, I want the canopy orange too, or actually around the canopy to be orange. So I taped all that off, and I made it kind of that V shape, comes to a point kind of thing. And he was happy with all that. So then I grabbed my, $14 airbrush and realized that the paint that I had was had been here for a while. It was a little thick, because it's a little older and I wasn't using the fluorescent orange all that much. And so I shook it up and I was like, wow, this paint's really thick. It's kind of, evaporated a little bit. It's water-based. It's a Createx.
Got chunks in it.
I know, right? It looks like Elmer's glue. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And it needs to be the consistency of milk, actually, if you think about it. So, you can thin it with a couple different things. The best thing I use is Windex. Windex is a really good thinner. It's got a evaporative, plus some alcohol, ammonia, that kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, I sprayed some in the bottle and I shook it up, and that was a mess on its own because I almost dropped the bottle.
You put that you peated the top of it, and then and then it broke. And then
I went to go screw the cap on, and when I screwed it one twist too hard, the whole top of the cap came off my hand, and now there's no cap on it. So I put my finger. I put my finger over to shake it, and when I did, it flipped up in the air and came down and was literally landed on my shirt.
Okay.
And we were both wearing our Parkflyer Podcast T-shirts. So now I got orange paint literally on my face, on my shirt, on my pants, on my feet, and I'm like, oh crap! Well, luckily it's water-based, so I just ran in there and kind of rinsed it all off. So
now, once again, that went a little differently than what I was thinking. I thought you were about to say, Yeah, so red and orange makes purple, or something.
Exactly,
because
right?
you broke the top off, then you put your thumb on to shake it, then you cut yourself, bled into the bottle.
Yeah, no, it didn't. We weren't working with any
plastic.
That's
what
I
all
thought you were going to
plastic.
tell me.
It's all plastic.
Right, yeah.
Everything was safe. Yeah,
right.
Very safe.
We didn't have any sharp objects near.
We were a very family-friendly painting shop.
Okay, that's how I saw that in my head going.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
Well,
like,
sorry to
wow.
disappoint you.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Because then we could add a safety moment.
Yeah, we could have had the safety moment. So anyway, then we had already picked out the green as well, and so he kind of told me what he wanted. Needless to say, I started spray painting, and I was really frustrated. Not spray painting, but airbrushing. I was really frustrated because it wasn't siphoning the way I needed it to, so it was a little splotchy.
Yeah, it wasn't covering right.
Yeah, it didn't cover right, and there's no big deal. I mean, I can fix it. I knew what the problem was as soon as I started airbrushing, but Mike was watching, and I was just doing these little layers, and it was real thin, and 20 minutes later, he's like, "Man, this really takes a long time." So I started laughing. I'm like, "Well, it's kind of an art. This is one of those things. It's a stage process." I go, "It took me over almost 2 weeks to do my L39. I didn't do it all in one night. It's just a stage. You got to do this and then let it dry and then do this." And but luckily we had the other thing is that I had wrapped the whole airplane with blue tape because we were going to paint the areas, and then I just masked the whole
the rest of
airplane.
Yeah.
And I did that without him.
For me, that's what takes the longest time.
Right, but I had done that already. So when Mike got there, he's like, "Whoa, wow," and we took a picture. Jay's like, "Oh, it needs more blue tape," because it had blue tape all over it. But basically, if you want to keep the airplane pristine, you layer. When you think about how to paint it, you layer it. So you go, okay, well, I'm going to paint these, and then I'm going to go from a light color to a dark color because your light color can't it can't cover the dark color.
Mm-hmm.
You paint the black the last, right?
Mm-hmm.
You paint the white the first, because it just doesn't cover.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I thought about priming the whole airplane, but we opted against that because we thought it'd look better if it was just the raw
foam white,
foam white instead of an actual primer white. But we did the cowling and we did the where the canopy kind of sits. Mm-hmm. So once we got all that done, we needed to let it dry, and we masked off. We flipped the tail over and we masked off the bottom part of the tail. Mm-hmm. And so Mike was able to actually paint some of the cowling, I think, the orange. Because you're painting the orange. And so he kind of gave a little try at airbrushing. I told him there's a little bit of a learning curve. Jay actually has been there too. When he was down here, we were trying to get him, but I've been doing this a long time, so it's more of a natural reaction to me to get the airflow through and to get the line perfect. But it was really frustrating. I felt bad because he was using this really cheap airbrush, and it was kind of splattering everywhere. But he did a good job, and he covered it, and he got to participate. And so anyway, that was pretty much it, right? That's about as far as we got that night.
And then I'm down here because my daughter's graduating from Northern Arizona University,
right.
And
congratulations!
Yeah, thanks. And it's really exciting because she graduated in 3 years. I'm really proud of her for getting that done. And so I went up to go see the graduation, which is a couple hours away.
Right.
And I came back late. I was out with family and stuff and hanging out, and I came back late. And Mike goes, "Mike, I need you to come over and take a look at this. I have a decision to make."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I come pulling in, and I come around the corner, and he had done some more on the plane, quite a bit more on the plane.
Pretty much finished.
I was understating, and I was like, "Holy crap! Wow, what decision do I have to make?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, do you want this that way?" And so we talked more about design, but what it ended up doing is just stopping because any more would have really taken away from the cleanness. I thought I liked how clean it was, and how it looked. And he did some really nice accents, and we, I didn't want to put any stickers on it originally. He was like, "Well, yeah, it's a."
Oh no, it looks much better.
It's a pylon racer. You got to have stickers. And I was like, "Well, I like how clean it looks. I don't really want to, I feel like it's going to pollute it." And he goes, "No, it'll be fine." And so we took the stickers and started having a conversation. And we brought you, if you remember, Jay, we brought you in, and we started talking about different ideas and different designs, and that was kind of a fun part. Because we started looking back on the original paint scheme and copying and pieces of it and looking at what we liked and what we didn't like about it.
Right.
And it really wasn't a didn't like part of it because, quite frankly, I really thought the original FunRacer scheme was very nice. So wasn't against it, but it was nice to have this choice of what you did.
Right.
So it really looked nice.
And to kind of follow Mike, that I don't want to really skew any of our listeners for putting their comments on what they think of the airplane. But, there were parts of the sticker paint combo that we had to work with for the paint that we did. Mm-hmm. Those stickers were designed specifically for
the color scheme
that Multiplex put out. And we modified that, highly modified all that. And as a result, we had to kind of manipulate the stickers. So, once again, jump on our Facebook page, Parkflyer Podcast Listeners group, and tell us what you think. Make some comments if you're listening to this as to what you think of the airplane, if you like it, don't
what
like
changes
it,
you
what
might
changes
make.
you might make, kind of do that. But just kind of bring Mike's point in is that he left and went up to Flagstaff, which is about 3 hours away, and my wife and I kind of went out and did her thing for Mother's Day, and basically when we came back, I was kind of like, she was going to bed, and I was like, well, I'm going to go out there and kind of mess around with the airplane. And I really wasn't planning on doing much. I was just trying to get ideas. But I was so frustrated with the way it looked that I was like, all right, screw it. I just pulled out my Pache. I pulled out the $150 airbrush. And, that stuff takes, I put the bigger needle in it, the number 3 or number 5 or whatever it is, so I can put more paint on. And then I basically just started, repainting the nose. I repainted the nose, repainted the cowling, masked off the tail, repainted the whole tail green, painted all the stripes on the bottom of the elevator because they were bright purple. And we'd already masked that off before, so I just went ahead and shot that. And then I was sitting there looking at it, and I thought, well, I wonder when Mike's going to be home, because he's supposed to be back anytime. He actually said, I'll probably be back early. And so I had expected him, 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and here it is, 8 or 9, and I thought, well, where's that wing, So I walked over and I pulled the wing out, and still had the purple in my airbrush, so I basically masked off the wing, and we looked at some of these high-speed gliders. They all had these invasion-type stripes right down on the bottom of the wing to kind of show, and I took a little liberty. Instead of I did 2 wide stripes, and then I did 45 stripes on the wingtips.
It was great.
And so that kind of gives it some contrast. And then on the top, he wanted the leading edge to be orange. So I laid down the leading edge. Luckily, believe it or not, on this airplane, Jay, they have panel lines that are molded into the foam that worked perfect.
Oh, great. So that was easy.
Yeah, they work perfect. So I just lined up the panel line that came down, and then I took that tape that we've been talking about, and I'll have to look it up, but I just used the tape. I think Tamiya sells some of it. Maybe. I think it's Tamiya painting tape. But anyway, you pull it around, and I did like a curve, and you'll be able to see the photo, but you've seen it. And then I went ahead and added an extra stripe, orange stripe, through there. So, and I taped all that off and cleaned out the airbrush and put the orange back in and sprayed the whole leading edge. Mm-hmm. So basically, when he got home, the airplane was done. Now, what I was trying to do is I got to the point where I stopped because the orange was done, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring this green tail into the wing portion of it. Because I wanted it to have some kind of a flow, because the purple was all on the bottom. You wouldn't see any purple, but the orange and the green looked really good apart. But how do I blend it from the nose to the tail? Where do I bring a green stripe in that points back to the tail? From a design and, creative perspective, that's kind of what I'm sitting there. So I masked off some ideas, and just about that time, Mike drove in. So that's what I asked him, kind of bring it back around to that. I said, hey, Mike, I have to make a decision. So when he walked back over there, he looked at all that, and he was like, oh, my gosh, you've already completed it. And I was like, well, I'm not really complete, but and then he's like amazed at the paint, like, wow, this paint looks 10 times better than it did. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm using the expensive airbrush today. And so he got to actually see, we did do a little painting, I think. Or did we do some? Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess you didn't get to see it. But you got to see the difference between the $14 airbrush paint that we had done before and the $150 airbrush paint that we did this time. So it looked way different. The other thing is that because it's foam, Mike was really worried about handling the foam and having the paint come off. So I basically took the liberty and sprayed the whole thing with a gloss coat. So it's neon, it's kind of these fluorescent colors, but it's got a real high gloss to it.
It's awesome.
And so these colors really just jump out at you. And the orange is really deep, right? It's got a darker flare to it. And I think he mentioned the fact that the foam on the wing, or the orange on the wings, is a little lighter than the one on the nose. But if I'm not mistaken, the nose is plastic.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's a little bit darker, because it's a different medium.
Some of it's still foam, though.
The darker part is on the bottom, though, and that's the part that
right.
looks darker.
Yeah,
because the upper part has a kind of that same look.
Yeah, that seems.
So anyway,
was the nose cone? Was that the original nose cone, the chrome?
Yes, it's a chrome plastic. It's plastic, but it's chrome.
Oh, I know, but it just. Because when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, I didn't know it had a chrome nose cone."
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, that orange
really
and that chrome really looks nice together. Yeah, it pops.
Okay, I thought you might have got that separate, or Mike had something laying around the house.
It would. And what's really good is that the black. If I end up getting a black nose cone, that'll look good with the orange too.
Right.
And Mike accented it with a black stripe that I think again would tie that black. If I have to use a black nose cone or whatever,
right,
it would be good.
So that was the funny part, is because I was looking at this thing and it had nothing but paint on it. And it still looked really great. As a matter of fact, I think we sent you a picture of it that had nothing on it. I was like, hey, this is where we were. And, he and I spent probably 35 or 40 minutes talking about the green, bringing it in, what do we want to do? And it was really neat to have him as part of this creative process, because my head, I could see the finished product. But in his head, it was the finished product.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a slight disconnect there, because communication-wise, he's like, well, what do you mean? Why would you want to do that? And I'm thinking, I have to finish the paint so I can put the stickers on it, because that's the cool part, And he's like, I think it's fine just the way it is. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You have a 3-foot sticker sheet over here that I haven't even got to that yet, And so we decided, like you said, we decided not to.
Yeah, not to extend it. It was fine the way it was.
Yeah, he liked it the way it was.
And I wanted to not put stickers on it again, because I like the cleanliness of not having the stickers there. But it really did add. It really makes it
sure
nice.
Did.
Yeah, and it also gives tribute to the guys who made it, which I think is nice too.
Yeah.
To give them credit where where it belongs. And
yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah, it's a nice plane so far.
So luckily we were able to use some of the stickers, because the number, I told him, I said, look, it's a Reno racer or an air racer. You got to have a number on it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have it. So if anything, you're just going to put the numbers. So he was kind of like, okay, well, all right, I see that, So I said, okay, well, here's the actual picture of the one that comes out of the box like that. Well, then all of a sudden he's like, wow, that looks really good. And I'm like, yeah, yours could look like this too, because the point of a racer is to have sponsorships, right? And so you want your sponsors, when they're paying big money to be a sponsor, so you got to advertise for them, and that's what a racer looks like. I go, think about NASCAR. You get these cars going around; they're just littered with stuff,
stickers,
stickers everywhere. But
and
it's anybody that gives you a dollar.
What color is that?
Okay, Mike. That's why it said if Mike had any of these stickers from Hobby King.
Right.
Sure.
Send just stickers for
stickers
all
in
sorts
general,
of stuff.
right? But
that would be the perfect thing to stick on.
But the cool thing about the ones that came with the thing is they had curvature to them, and they really added some dimension that I didn't really see or really want initially. Because again, I just like the cleanliness of it. I'm more of a stark. I mean, if I make choices, it's typically a stark choice than one that has flair, I guess, which is what I'd call this.
And Jay
plane's got flair.
Yeah, exactly. Jay will testify that I'm more of a detail, kind of scale type guy. And actually, my A10, now that Mike has been here twice and seen it, I actually did a little more weathering on it this time and put some 3D parts, and so he got to see it. And so I'm kind of in that mental picture that this isn't really complete. There's always room to improve.
Sure.
And so it was really kind of neat. And so we didn't use all the stickers, but we were able to, kind of put some stickers. We put the number on, and he really liked that. Then I said, well, we should use this part. And the coolest thing for Mike was that these stickers are black and they're clear. They're on a clear piece. So when we put the sticker behind it, when we put the sticker on the airplane, part of the sticker had white reflecting off of it, and part of the sticker had
orange. Or whatever.
So like the letters that say FunRacer, the top part of it was in orange, the bottom part was in white.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, did you paint this? And I go, yeah, it's underneath. So I think that, that's another thing that kind of gives it that dimension, that little pop that, oh, wow, you can see this orange. It's really bright. And then we spent the rest of the evening kind of stickering it up.
Yeah. And then shellacked it again.
And then put some more, we put some more clear coat.
Yeah.
We put some clear coat on the top because we
didn't want the stickers to peel off.
Stickers coming off. Yeah. So now it's all nice and shiny. We let it dry overnight. Came back the next. I think we sent Jay some photos, and then we came back the next morning and put the
receiver and stuff in it. So this is actually a good segue for the next thing, which was I hadn't successfully done this. Maybe one time where I did a wireless trainer with a Spectrum radio.
Right.
Now my slave radio was a Taranis X9D Plus, which is what I have, and I was like, I don't know. I've never done this before. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And so we started playing with it. And, after we went through some of the troubles that we went through, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Eventually, no.
Yeah. The biggest challenge was configuring the Lemon gyro receiver we put on it. And I'm not saying that because it was hard to configure the Lemon gyro receiver. It's just that we didn't have all the pieces of information that we needed in front of us, and we had to look it up before we could really do it.
Yeah, one of the things Mike said to me was when we finally got finished with the whole paint job, Mike looked at me and went, okay, you're going to maiden this because this plane really scares me, which was kind of odd. We went out and bought this airplane because he loves it. So to have somebody say, oh, this plane is scary, it scares me. And so the first thing I thought of was, well, if it scares you, we'll put a gyro in it. It's hard enough to fly without one, but if you show one in there, we turn the gains up and now the thing helps out, it flies like a dream. And so I told him, I said, would you be, I know you're a FR Sky guy. I said, but, what do you think about a Lemon receiver? He goes, well, I have the module, right? Yeah. The module. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I got a whole ton of these in the back room. Let me go get one. So I went and grabbed one and we stuck it in there and it came out of one of my other airplanes, I think. But anyway, it's just the Lemon gyro. Luckily, this airplane only has 4 channels anyway, right?
5. Or two aileron, 4.
Yeah.
5 for the throttle, I guess is why I said that, yeah.
Right. So it's got dual ailerons, one for each side, and it's got the elevator and the rudder. So that's basically 4 channel and then the throttle.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a 7-channel, telemetry, or not telemetry, but stabilizer system. So yeah, Mike said, "Hey, let's buddy box." So we had a cable, and I go, "Why do we have the cable? We got a wireless. I got a wireless on my DX18." He's like, "Oh, let's do that." So we went through the manual and set up my radio as the master, and then basically set his up as a slave. And then they had all these mixes that they wanted to do because it's got a lot of torque in it. So we went out there and I put some of the mixes in and tried to get all that stuff figured out. Mm-hmm. We decided, hey, let's go maiden it.
Yeah. So we're going out there and it was starting to rain.
Well, you can see rain on the horizon. It was kind of like
I saw it on my shirt.
Rain in Arizona.
What's that?
The state that only has 350 days contiguous sunlight.
I saw rain on my shirt, Mike. You might have seen it in the horizon, but I saw it on my shirt and on the ground.
Well, we were, Mike was nice enough to invite me to lunch with his family, which they're a great bunch of great group of people. But so we had a quick lunch with them, and then we, we're headed over. I think we're headed over to Spencer's to do some work on some airplanes. But we had this FunRacer, and we had already done all this work. And I'm like, well, let's at least go out to the park because we got to pass that to go out to Spencer's anyway. So we'll just jump off and we'll maiden the airplane in the park. And he said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so there was, we knew it was supposed to rain showers this afternoon because there was humidity in the air. And so there was some rain up at my place and a little bit
in the mountains
area, yeah. But it hasn't really got to us yet. And right as we pulled into the park, there was a couple sprinkles. So Mike goes, well, what do you think out there? And of course, I jump out of the truck and go, I don't think the heavy stuff's coming down for a while yet, And he goes, where was that from? And I started laughing. I go, it's a Caddyshack. It's classic,
Caddyshack.
And so anyway, we had little sprinkles, but it was calm and just I was like, these are nothing. We won't get that stuff. Won't be here for a little bit. So we jumped over there, and I said, "How about we just do?"
Later.
Yeah, exactly. How about we just do the let me just maiden it without the buddy box thing, and then we'll work on that here in a minute. And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I'll just get it trimmed up." So we made sure everything worked and
tossed it in the air.
And I went about a third throttle, and that thing just took off like a homesick angel. But it was really torquey. I wanted to roll to the right.
So what's the configuration of the plane? So it's
how do you mean?
Do you know what size motor you got in there?
Oh, no.
Or what
it
battery
came
were
out of
you
the
using?
box. Whatever,
this is all stock.
Whatever came out of the box.
Okay. What batteries were you using?
2200s.
The only one he uses.
3-cell 2200s.
So it was just a 3-cell, not a 4-cell.
That's
no,
correct.
but I had the 4-cell in my pocket.
I was thinking it took a 4.
We brought it with us, but we didn't use it because I don't have 4-cell.
I thought you were using a 4-cell.
I don't have any 4-cells, so I wanted to see it fly on a 3-cell, and off we went. So
yep. So it torqued over a little bit, and I got some altitude and turned it around, and right as I did, the hurricane hit.
He's right.
Smokes, man.
The wind was blowing from every direction.
Oh my gosh! It was like a tornado just came through there. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And it started to rain, like not these little wispy drops
big
of Arizona,
drops.
but
it wasn't a lot of big drops, but they were big drops.
Yeah.
So we knew the hard stuff was coming.
I was just like, you got to be kidding me! I mean, I've been in the air 30 seconds, and all of a sudden it's like, the wind's blowing, and it's funny because Jay and I had this exact same thing happen. We went and flew the Phoenix that day.
Yeah.
And, fortunately for us, we were giggling like schoolgirls because, the Phoenix just sat in one place and we were flying in like a 35 mile an hour wind. But this airplane trying to maiden it, I mean, we had flown the Phoenix a lot, but
a lot.
This airplane was my first maiden, and all I can think about is like, it looks good. It looked good in the air, because it's a past tense.
Hey, Mike, how's it handling? I don't know.
And that was the difficult part. Every time I
I
added throttle, it felt like the airplane just torqued over, and I didn't have any mix on. I didn't have the gyro on. But when I pulled the power off, it glided around. So I just pulled the power and tried to fly into the wind and get it to see if it'll straight. The CG felt fine, and I got it trimmed to where it was level. But then I started coming around towards us, and the wind shifted, and that thing just started coming out of the sky, and it's coming straight at us. And I was going to make a turn, and then Mike goes, "Are we landing?" And I was like, "Yeah," because if I add power right now, it's going to just go nuts. It's downwind, and he jumps out there like he's going to catch it. And then he goes, that's too fast. And so he jumps out of the way. Well, I didn't know if he was going to catch it, but I wasn't going to go full throttle right in the man's face, So I kind of let it go past us, and he's like, what are you doing? And, there's nothing but trees and rocks over there. And
a big pole.
And so I added power, and when I did, it rolled real hard to the left, missed the pole. And
you killed it and landed.
Yeah, and I chopped the throttle, leveled the wings, and just kind of put it down. And so it skipped off the sidewalk barely, and then it kind of just went click, and then off into the little gravel.
Yeah, which is fine.
So it has a couple scrapes on the bottom, plastic part from the rocks.
Weathering.
As everybody says, it's weathering. But I want to say it was a successful maiden, but I really don't feel like it was successful because I only flew it, But we literally ran over there. Mike's arms were up in the air like, oh, my gosh, because when it touched down, the canopy popped off. I think he thought it was the wing.
I did. And then I turned and said, it's the canopy.
Yeah, you could see that his face. He was like, ugh. And then he was like, oh, it's the canopy. So he runs over. And honestly, the airplane's been fine.
It's great shape. It really is. Given the potential disaster.
Yes, there was a potential, but I did thread it between two bushes and a tree.
Yep.
And a cactus, and actually got it to the ground. Yeah. So, kudos,
So I was like really frustrated because I wanted to do buddy boxing with him, and the rain was coming down. I was like, all right, well, we're going over to Spencer's, so I'll spend time at Spencer's. I'll figure out what's going on with the radio so I can make it work. Buddy box, because we tried to make it work where we're sitting here, but we couldn't do it. So,
right.
Well,
we were kind of in a hurry, but
but we couldn't make it work. So I'm working on it. It's like, I don't know, this isn't working right. Like when I'm connected, this weird stuff is happening. He's like, that is weird. Maybe it's your radio. It's a Tyrannus. It's like, I don't think so, because I look at my monitor and it shows which channel it's sending. It's like, I'm only sending this channel. And then I look at his radio and it says, oh, it's only receiving this channel. So there's something weird going on. It's like, well, okay, well, if it's not the radio and that's right, well, it's got to be the receiver. And so I played with it a little bit, and I didn't know the receiver very well, and didn't have access to computer or whatever. Didn't really make any progress.
It was weird, Jay. You put right aileron in, the elevator would go full, nose up.
Yeah, would deflect.
That's not right.
No,
it would deflect.
However, when you put full elevator in, only the right aileron
would go
up. So I told him, I was like, was this like this when I maidened it? Because if it was, I'm a stellar pilot. If it wasn't,
I'm here to say he's a stellar pilot.
Because if it was like that, no wonder it was acting crazy.
One of the things I did was I was recording some of the things, and I recorded the diff switches,
right?
So that we'd have them, what their working setup. And so I went and did it, and we looked at it, and he's like, was it that way before? I was like, yep, I don't know, but I think so. And he's like, well, that would explain some of the weirdness that I saw.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, but I was flying it straight and level. I said, yeah, but you weren't touching any of the surfaces when you were flying straight and level. You didn't try to aileron, you didn't try to elevator, nothing. You were just flying it, watching the, CG. And so I sat here just before we got started tonight and took a few minutes and looked it up online. It's like, yep, this is supposed to be here, here, here. Okay. Oh, look, it works.
I knew when you were telling me the what it was doing, since I have very similar receivers, that it was the dip switches.
Sure.
That if you don't have them configured just right.
Well, I had asked him earlier when it didn't make sense at the time when I asked him.
Right.
But I'd asked him earlier. I said, okay, what setup do you know that takes that when you do aileron, the elevator goes? And neither one of us could think with a regular plane.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking. But
what would you ever set that up like?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you wouldn't. There's just never. Well, you would on a V. I mean, a wing,
right,
a wing. And sure enough, that's what it was.
Yeah, we had it set in an Elevon setting.
Yeah, so it was so set for Elevon.
Woohoo! Let me tell you how exciting that was.
Yeah, because anytime he elevated, he got right aileron. And
I could not figure out. It was the weirdest mix ever to fly a standard airplane with Elevon mixing.
What's worse is Jay, is that the torque is to the left,
right?
And the if he gives it up elevator, if he gave it
right aileron.
No, it was up.
You're just
if he was giving. Wait, there were two problems.
Oh, right. If I gave it up elevator, the
right aileron would come up.
And it would torque over.
So it basically would correct for the torque,
right?
But would be nosediving,
right?
And so I had to imagine he was just like, I don't know what's happening.
It was weird.
It was squirrely watching him do it, and it really did some interesting maneuvers. Like when he put gas on, it would like the tail would kick over,
right?
So it's just really behaving oddly for him, and so
it's possessed.
It was possessed. It was.
Well, the funny part is, when they launch this thing, they always launch it inverted.
Yep.
Can you imagine? I told Mike, I was like, can you imagine if we would have had this in there and we launched this sucker inverted?
It would have hit the ground.
It would have been in the past tense because I don't know. I guess I'm good, but I ain't that good. I mean, it's just like, holy smokes.
Well, but luckily, I read online that you can underhand toss that thing.
So we underhand tossed it.
Yeah, that was smart. It was a smart play.
But honestly, after seeing that we had the Elevon mixing, and this was one of those things that Mike brought up a good point. We went out there and checked it. All the control surfaces were working the right direction. But how many times do you look at the elevator when you're testing the ailerons?
I didn't.
Right? You like for me, I do the rudder, I do the elevator, I look at the ailerons all working. I don't look back at the rudder and see if the rudder's moving. Now, if it's a tail dragger and the butt end of it's moving around, then I'm going to be like, why is it moving? But he was holding it. And it was kind of like, okay, he shows me this control surface upright. Okay, there it is. And then, he leans the airplane the other direction so I can see which way they're going.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really didn't pay attention to see if the elevator was going full scale deflection when I went right aileron. Or vice versa, when I went full up, that I get this huge roll.
Whatever, right.
And so anyway, it was very awkward, strange. I lucked out, that it wasn't like I was up there trying. I think, honestly, that big wind and the rain probably helped me in the fact that I didn't – well, I mean,
you're
laughing,
to use
but
control surfaces to fly
No,
it, you mean?
not that. But I'm just saying that it meant that we had to go right now.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't up there trying to figure out why this thing and trimming it, trying to see what's going on, right?
Gotcha.
I got it in the air. I did one half circle around the park, and it was like, oh, my gosh, here comes the storm. I got to get it on the ground, which is why I was landing
downwind
because I was trying to get it on the ground because we were about to get soaked, and I didn't want the airplane. We both had my transmitter was out. All the electronics were hanging out. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to ruin this airplane. So, and then luckily for me, had I decided to do just a max thrust go around,
it would have turned over.
It would have just rolled right into the cement. And I chose not to do that because when I added power, it did this really funky maneuver, and I'm like, okay, that's it. So I just chopped the power and, like Mike
finished
said, finished it out. I just put it right on the ground. So we lucked out, and I think Mother Nature knew it, and so she helped us keep it in, one piece. And
the RC gods were kind to you.
They sure were.
Your karma, you guys have good
that would
karma
have been
this
pieces.
week. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the best part is after all of that, and we went to Spencer's and I kind of figured it all out. And then Mike sends a text to Jay that goes, well, that was exciting.
Oh, yeah. Guys left me hanging.
I know, right? So next thing
I figured you guys
wait,
splatted
what?
the plane. That's what I was expecting. I thought you guys splatted the plane because he goes, yeah, that was exciting. Or, that's how I took the text messages.
Of course.
Not that you can put emphasis on that. I just read it as, yeah, that was really exciting. I'll call you later. That's how I took it. That's what it was. I just
when
said,
Mike's not around.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'll call you
when Mike's not around, I'll call you
guy.
later. And I'm like, oh man, that beautiful airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They destroyed it on the Maiden? No way.
Know, right?
That's all I had in my head.
Almost did.
Almost, yeah. So, well, there's a lesson for you, right? When you made an airplane, make sure you check all the control surfaces and that other control surfaces are not moving.
Well, I think that's especially true with gyro and mixing type devices that you add to the plane. I mean, in this case, not only did we do mixes in the radio, but we had this extra thing that was causing mixes for the plane
and
itself.
So from what I'm seeing, so you took that was a gyro from another plane. You just threw in there.
Yeah, it was
you
probably
weren't
from a
thinking
wing
about
or
it,
something.
thinking that it was
Could have been,
the same
yeah,
configuration.
Yeah, could have been right.
But you hadn't used that thing in for how long? You don't know. You throw it in there, and just because the dip switches were just flipped the opposite of what they should have been, almost cost you.
Uh-huh.
So
well, but you know what?
I think the elevator thing was inverted too. The elevator gain. I think it was.
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah.
But we weren't using it anyway, so it was fine.
Using it.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I didn't have the gyro on. I learned that lesson a long time ago.
Yeah. No first flights with gyro.
No, you flip that sucker on and the airplane just goes, wah! You're like, okay. That's why I have it on a switch. You don't have to put it on a switch. You can leave it on all the time, but that's just devastating. You got to be able to turn it off, and then I have a variable gain on my knob too, so we can turn the gain on and on, up and down.
Yep, up and down as well.
Honestly, Jay, I looked at those dip switches, and in my head, I was like, okay, it has to be 3, 4, and 6. Well, what happened originally, it was 3 and 4. And everything was working correctly, although the left aileron got no stabilization.
Right. That's right.
So I was like, okay, everything looks correct, but there's no stabilization on the one control surface. What's wrong with this? And then I looked down and I'm like, I think it's 6. So I flipped the 6. Boom. It all came in. And I was holding the elevator. I was holding the receiver in my hand. Oh. So as I was moving it, I would go forward, back. It wasn't mounted in the airplane. So I wasn't moving the airplane. I was actually moving the receiver and looking at the control surfaces. Right. So even any little movement was causing all the control surfaces to move, and I wasn't recognizing that one versus the other. So it was a very good lesson for me at this stage of the game. I'm very happy that we did not destroy his airplane.
Well, and all that work. I mean, for me, it was less about the plane and more about all the painting work that you had done.
Well, Spencer always says everything has an expiration date. It just may not be today. So, yeah, there was a lot of work that went into it, and, I would have been just heartbroken.
Yeah, me too. But, again, not for the money of it, just because you spent a lot of time.
I know, just a lot of time and effort.
So the good news is you guys have a fabulous airplane.
We do.
Yep. I mean, it pops in the sky. You can see it. It's the most colorful airplane that AK Mike has.
I think so.
So that's fantastic. Uh-huh. You didn't destroy it.
Nope.
During the Maiden, and now you got it all figured out. So you guys are going to go out tomorrow.
He actually figured out the buddy box.
So I can't wait to hear that report. We'll have to hear that in the next podcast because believe it or not, our hour is up.
I know, man.
My friends.
Unbelievable. Just on one airplane.
Yeah.
Just 5 more minutes.
Just 5 more minutes. Well, we'll give you 5 more minutes, but I want to tell our listeners, hey, come on out to not to our podcast. You're listening to our podcast, but go to our website,
Facebook page.
Go to yeah, exactly, because you're gonna have pictures out there of this thing, so the guys can see, right? And I was ready to say before and after pictures, which are going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah,
that's what I thought we were going to have.
Yeah.
Oh, things went wrong before and after.
Well, actually, what we can actually put the before the stickers and after the stickers. We have those.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So yeah,
we'll
do. This is the originally what it looked like, and then this is what it looks like in the finished product. So. And actually, give it up to Spencer, because we took it to Spencer's and let him and Barry we were all over there, and Dan too. We were all over at Spencer's place working on different projects. Everybody had a different project. And when we walked in, Mike goes, "Hey, look at my new airplane." And every one of them was like, "Wow," because we had texted them and said, "Here it is."
Yeah.
Spencer immediately pointed out, he goes, "Wow, A, that looks factory, and B, pictures don't do it justice."
The photos don't really show the colors.
Photos don't really show that.
In fact, they sort of it depends on the photos we show. I'll leave it go. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
I won't say anything. It'll be a surprise. And if you go out there and take a look, you can see what the.
Well, I took one photo and it actually looked like the colors were totally different.
That was lighting.
Yeah, it was the lighting, but one wing was one color and the other wing was another color.
But anyway, we'll show them and they can take a look at it for themselves again.
Yeah, okay.
And like I said, I'd love to hear people's suggestions on what they would have done differently or what they don't do or don't like. Be nice to Mike, because it's mostly his design. We both really make choices.
Welcome,
but
yeah, you know what? I welcome any creative comments that you guys are more than welcome to. It doesn't hurt my feelings, because, like I said, it's an ongoing process, and I can always change things. You know? I mean, I sat back after, like Mike said, we're not really going to go into it, but I sat back and said, with Mike and I sitting there looking at it, okay, I would have done this, I would have done that, I would have done that, and Mike was like, okay, that makes a little more sense. And as I explained myself going along the process, he kind of saw what this vision was that I could have done differently.
Right. Well, I'm anxious to hear the next report on how it flies and how fast it flies.
Sure. Yeah, we're excited
how
to
fast it
goes. It's going to fly fast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look on RC groups, everybody talks about it, and they're all running 5S, 6S, whatever, changing the motor out to even crazier motor, whatever. I mean, it's amazing what people are doing. I just want to fly the thing stock.
Right.
It's a great. If I can fly this thing, which I think I'll be able to, I really do.
Yeah,
I watched you fly it. I think I will, now that the control surfaces are working the way they're supposed to.
Right.
I think I'll be able to fly this thing. It'll be a lot like, I imagine this will be a lot like my wing, Jay. Is that every time I fly that thing, I get a big ass smile on my face, and I imagine this is going to be much like that, because it'll zip around. It looks great in the air. It's a beautiful plane, and I'm really excited about what we're going to.
Okay,
what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm actually.
If it's so good, we all might have to get one.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to tell you. Actually, from as much time as I've spent with Mike on his, and now that I've actually kind of gone and flown, partially flown it. It's not a full maiden, but when we maiden it again, I could see myself actually owning one of these. Because for Tuesdays when we go out there,
I'm anxious to hear about it.
Super exciting.
I mean, the great thing is you just got to put a receiver in it.
Yeah, pretty much. It comes out of the box.
Yep.
Receiver and a battery, you're done.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
That's my kind of plane.
Yeah, me too.
And I like the control horns on it.
The
way they adjust and everything, they're really nice.
That was actually a cool thing I wanted to point out. On the control horns and the elevator and the rudder, it has a number stamped on there.
Yep, that's correct.
So the number stamped on there is also on the connector, so you know which surface you're looking at.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's actually a really great thing. I mean, I know that some of the other companies produce. They'll put a little tab on one, a little tab on the other, but the number, and then the number on the front is worked out.
Yeah, I think it's
really
better.
Kind of cool. So.
That's good.
Well, hard to believe we are out of time, but I think we can pick up another episode. Hear what happened, and we're going to go out tomorrow and try this again. Hopefully, we'll go out early and there won't be any wind, and I can get this thing made and let Mike fly it.
It'd be great.
Oh, yeah. And plus, you guys got a bunch of other things to fly.
Yeah, we do.
I got a whole trailer full of stuff.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have not unloaded my trailer the entire time he's been here.
That's true.
And you can also give a report on maybe that little camera that I gave you.
Maybe. I don't think we're going to. I was thinking about putting it on my plane.
Actually, we could put it in the big gas airplane.
We could.
Yeah, we could do that.
You could tape it to the
FunRacer.
FunRacer.
Let's get a report on it as well. I'm anxious to hear how well it works or it doesn't work.
Yeah. I got.
You can put it on your cap. You can use it to.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Videotape.
I can videotape so Philip can say, "Hey, we can't see it. It's a speck." And last week he was talking about, or the last two weeks ago, last podcast he was talking about it. Well, wow, there's a lot of content, and we still got a lot of stuff to do. So this is kind of neat. I really enjoyed the fact that I spent 2 weeks down at Jay's place, working on his stuff, and then Mike came down. I came back and went to work for a little bit, a week or two, and then Mike shows up, and we got a week with him as well. So, and we've actually been doing a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I think we've probably flown more than Jay and I flew, actually. And Jay and I flew a lot.
Yeah,
we've flown almost every day.
Yep.
So that's
except yesterday. No, we flew yesterday too.
Yeah, I flew yesterday.
That's
right.
I
got sunburned.
That's right.
Look at him. He's cooking.
I didn't get to fly yesterday.
He's cooked so much.
Yeah, I didn't get to fly. I got to watch, but I didn't get to fly.
There you go. Not a problem. So, well, we'll get you flying tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just FYI, I got my new wing tube. For those of you that don't know, my big 106-inch Katana had a aluminum wing tube. When Mike was here last time, we bent it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He flew it as well.
I don't know.
It wasn't just me. He let
you fly for 5 minutes and you bent his wing.
No.
You bastard.
That was funny, though, when he was flying that thing. He said it was the scariest he's ever been. Flying this big airplane. But yeah, so anyway, I got my carbon, just real quick, I got my carbon fiber wing tube. I didn't really want to drill into the carbon fiber, although I prepped it for it. And I wound up actually putting wing modification to hold the wings. So we'll talk about that. But I think we're going to go try it out tomorrow. See if we can get it started. Hasn't started in a while, so
that'll be fine.
Hopefully we get it cranked up.
It'll be fine. All right.
Anyway, well, I guess that does it for us. Huh?
Yeah.
We're going to go fly. Jay, got anything? No.
Nope, got nothing, man.
All right. Well,
let's wrap her up.
We appreciate it. From Arizona, I'm Michael.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
And this is AK Mike in Texas and Arizona.
All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Parkflyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.